Hey, everybody. So today we are talking about what is happening on the front lines of online sales. And I have a guest with us today that is working currently as an OSC and building her personal brand. And she is going to share with us how that has gone for her, how her role may be misunderstood, what she's found as in her new role, and just what it's been like building a personal brand as an OSC. So I think it's going to be a great conversation. You are going to love this guest, so please stick around and let's get into it. Welcome to the Just Make It Pretty podcast, the marketing and mindset show for home builders and beyond. I'm your host, Sarah Haynes, and around here we go beyond pretty pictures and we get honest about what's working, what's not, and what it really takes to build better brands, better experiences, and better teams. You'll find creative ideas, practical strategies, and conversations that actually matter. I'm so glad you're here. Now let's get started. So I am here today with Bri Ewchuk. She is the OSC at Ivy Homes, and she is here to talk about what it's like being an OSC right now in the home building industry. Brianna, thank you so much for joining me. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. And yeah, I'm just excited to talk more about OSC.
Yeah, I've been following you. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, but I've been following you on your new journey on LinkedIn and your newsletter. And I'm so happy for you building a brand and you're doing such a great job. And that's why I was like, I need to have her on to talk about this because we just don't hear about people from the front lines very often. That's why this episode came about. But I would love for you, Bri, to share how you got into your role today, what building your brand has been like, and what your day to day as an OSC looks like right now. I know that's a lot of questions I just put all into one. Feel free to share to your comfort
Yeah,
level.
all good. Yeah, so I am the OSC for Ivy Homes. I recently moved back to my hometown of Augusta, Georgia. Wow, I guess it's almost been a year. It was May of last year. Doesn't seem like that much time is flying by, but so I started working as an OSC for them in October, and it's been a great journey. My day to day is really different every day. I don't really have like a set schedule every day, but I work a hybrid kind of schedule. So I'm in the office 2 days a week, but the other days I'm working from home or I'm out in the communities doing things with the agents and things like that. My day to day is usually communicating back and forth with agents, communicating with leads, obviously, people that are interested in our homes and our communities. We have 5 communities right now, hopefully growing in the future. But so I manage just keeping up to date on all the information for those communities, collaborating with our marketing team to make sure that our messaging is consistent. And then I obviously work on my newsletter as part of my job. That started I guess, end of last year. And the whole reason I chose to do the Click Before the Key newsletter is to just bring awareness to the OSC role. I know we'll probably get into it, but I think a lot of people have misconceptions about what the role is and how important it is and just what all it entails. And so I just wanted to bring my perspective to LinkedIn and hopefully connect with other professionals that are interested in learning more.
Yeah, I love the name of your newsletter too. It's
Yeah,
so
thank
cute. Like, I feel like as a marketing person, I feel like naming things is so hard. And so I always look and I'm
you.
like, oh my God, that's such a great name. Why did I think of that?
I
So
can't really take credit. ChatGPT helped me a little bit with that one.
ChatGPT helps me during my job too. So I no shade on that. I think it's a great name. I think the content you're sharing is really great. And I agree with you. Like a lot of people don't really understand what OSCs do and the impact that they can have. So I'd love to just dive right into that and talk about like what do you think people outside of the OSC role like misunderstand about what you do?
Yeah, I think a lot of people, and even myself, when I became an OSC in the beginning, I thought it was just a lot of like answering calls and making calls. Like you just think you're sitting at a desk, almost like call center vibes, just not very personable. You're trying to get people to buy something, and it's just that's how I feel like a lot of people maybe perceive it is it's just making a bunch of calls and trying to book a bunch of appointments, and that's the extent of it. But really, there's a lot of nuances that kind of go into it in terms, like I mentioned, the marketing side. Although I am not marketing person and Ivy Homes has a great marketing team, I sit in on their meetings and listen to what ideas and things they are coming up with so that I can have an idea of maybe some potential buyers that may be interested in things that they're creating or events that they're thinking up. And so that's one piece of it, the marketing, but also on the management side of it, I manage our whole lead system, which it sounds simple, but there's little nuances that go into that too. So making sure that our follow-ups are accurate, has correct information, making sure that the leads are sorted properly, making sure that people that are actually interested are getting our information and not just bots and random spam solicitors. I think, yeah, there's just like a lot more that goes into it than just phone calls and appointments.
Yeah, you're funny. You're like, oh, I manage our whole lead system. It sounds simple. That does not sound simple. So that is a lot to do there. And it's interesting because I feel like a lot of people, even working within a home builder right now, like maybe they're in sales or in marketing, they themselves do not understand how much of an asset an OSC can be. And they are when you have them. And I know I've from talking to a lot of OSCs that there's a lot of challenges, like especially stepping into that role or like starting that position with a builder. So I'm curious, did Ivy have an OSC position before you? And if not, what was that kind of process like for you? What challenges did you come into?
Yeah, long story short, when they first created like OSC at Ivy Homes, I helped start that. That was many years ago when I worked for them previously. So when I left them, they did hire another OSC that kind of stepped in and was managing things. And then she moved away, and it worked out that I stepped into the role while she moved away. They had a system set up and it was great, but I believe every OSC works differently. How I manage my system is probably going to be a lot different than how the previous person managed it. So there were still a lot of things that I did in the beginning that made the system better for me and for my work day, if that makes sense. Some of that, or the biggest part of that, is just resorting the leads and making sure that they're ranked correctly, making sure that they're getting the information, most accurate information that they need.
I think it's really a combination of those systems and processes that you need to do your job. And then also like the relationship with your team. And I think you were talking about that without really saying it because like there is a lot of like back end setup and things that a new OSC coming into a role needs to do. But then there's like the kind of the social side, I guess, of it as well. So how was that side? How was the building the relationships with the team and like management as coming into a new role?
Yeah, just a little back end piece. My mom is actually the sales and marketing leader or person, so she is basically my boss. And so stepping into the OSC role at Ivy Homes for me, it was, I wouldn't say harder, but it was different because a lot of people knew who I was as a product of being her daughter. And that's a great thing to be, but sometimes people can perceive that as, oh, she's daughter, that's how she got here kind of thing. So trying to get over people's perceptions of me and then
Hmm.
also just building that value and that I'm different than the last OSC and how I do things is going to be different probably than how they did it and just setting the expectation in the beginning that I'm here for you guys to support you guys and it's not a me stepping in and doing an overhaul of the whole system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think anybody coming in or like changing a process is a lot. It's scary for everyone else involved. Like I know this from like my marketing team. Like if I implement a new process or a new system, everybody gets super anxious. I'm all excited. I'm like, yeah, but this is going to be so much better. And look at all these things. And everyone else is like, oh my gosh, like everything's going to change. And there's so many unknowns. And I've run into that several times because I like run and jump into things. Like I love doing that. But I have to be conscious of my team and how they're going to feel about it. I think that kind of feeling is not unique to marketing teams. Embracing the OSC is really important for everyone to do, but I think it can be a struggle sometimes. So I'm always interested to hear from people that actually are in that role and going through that. Like, what friction points show up between sales and marketing, or sorry, sales and online sales, and your online sales and your leadership and things like that. Have you, I guess my question is, have you seen any of that friction or had to work through anything?
I wouldn't necessarily call it friction. When I stepped into this role with Ivy Homes, I already knew some of the sales people just from being around previously, and some of those relationships were already built. But in terms of like just both being on the same page and getting on board, I think it just took some grace and from both sides and then just patience. I was on my end, I'm working on cleaning up a lot of stuff. On their end, they're probably getting eager and anxious for appointments. When I started at Ivy Homes back in October, it was a slow season. We were towards the end of the year, so like they're like grabbing for appointments, wanting all this help from me while I'm trying to manage getting my systems in place. And I think that was maybe the friction in the beginning, is just being able to manage what I need for myself, but also what the sales team needs, and working together and understanding what's best for everyone.
You bring up a good point that a lot of the work that OSCs do is not always visible like right away. And it's a slow build. I deal with this a lot with marketing. It's like you have to set it up and you have to like trust the process so that because this is going to compound. But you're always, at least for me, it feels like you're fighting for your value to like show
Mhm.
like this is gonna pay off. Like this is how this is gonna work. Do you feel that with your role on a lot of these like cleanup and things that you're doing that aren't like immediately valuable to everyone, just like visually?
Yeah, I think some of it is setting that expectation with the sales team and with everyone else. Like, hey,
Mm,
we're trying to do this, but you might not see it tomorrow or next week. It's probably going to be next quarter, probably, if not longer,
mm.
that all of this activity and work is going to come to fruition. And that's with anyone. So, like with leadership or a sales team or marketing, it's like, okay, just explaining why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it eventually will work out, hopefully, to our favor. But understanding that sometimes work doesn't, it's like delayed gratification. Sometimes you just need to be patient and let it work itself out. Hopefully that answered what you're asking.
Yeah, no, and I know your mom. I've talked with her a little bit about this kind of stuff too, but it really comes down to leadership. Like
Mhm.
they also have to back you up. And it's like, yes, we're all hoping this is going to work out, but we're not just sitting here on a hope and a prayer. Like here's the strategy that we're working through. And that can come from you, but it also needs to come from leadership, I think, as well, and like backing up their team and knowing that like everyone is working towards the same goal.
And I think that's what builds, I think you mentioned value earlier, but like building value and with your leadership and your other team, it's like putting these systems into place that you know will that have strategy and thought behind it that will turn into something, like that's what's gonna, once it does come out that like it was successful or what you changed worked, it that's when people are like, oh, okay, like she doesn't just have a hope and a prayer, it really is like a strategized system that they're implementing.
And that you're really building out systems, right? And you can't just
Mhm.
do that all willy-nilly. Like, yeah, I think this is going to work. Like
Right.
you need to have that strategy. And when you stepped into this role, I'm curious, like how quickly did you realize if things were missing from your CRM or if there was something that was missing from the process? And how did that process work for you of fixing those items as they came up?
Yeah, like I said, the system was already in place, so there was like I didn't have to overhaul it really. But for me, there was things I noticed immediately that I wanted to fix or change more to like my style of things. Obviously, the biggest one is like our just our lead follow-up system, but a lot of the stuff that I didn't do necessarily right away because I believe I had to really understand just my builder's messaging and my builder story. Obviously, I know of Ivy Homes because they've been around and my family and stuff for a while.
Yeah.
I know them pretty well, but just understanding what messaging they want to get across, that is paramount to understanding what kind of follow-up process we're going to have, what kind of messaging are we going to have in our emails or my text follow-up or my phone calls with people. I also had to know what communities we have out there, what homes. And so just gathering all that information was the priority in the beginning. And then once I felt confident and comfortable with that information, I was able to overhaul some of that follow-up and processes that we had.
And customize it to yourself, I imagine
Right.
too, like making it sound like you and adding your personal touch to some of those like messages can be really important so that it matches the experience that they get when they call and
Right.
then when they get your email later on.
Exactly. And then at the time too, we were like looking at implementing like voice assist thing on our calling system. And then like we were looking at other avenues to like add into our systems too. So figuring out how those were going to integrate into everything was also a big task in the beginning too.
So, as you are building your brands, because a lot of this happened all at the same time for you, it was a very short period. So, talk a little bit about that. Like, as you're building this system out, or like optimizing the system, I guess is a better word, and you're working with this builder, and what motivated you to then also be like, I want to start this newsletter and like really talk about the industry as a whole, because the information that you're sharing is really like applicable to a lot of different builders, and it's really
Right.
great information outside of just your little lane. So how did that work?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it stemmed from I mentioned I recently moved back home, and although I've grown up in the Augusta area, I like to call it like a little big town. It's like little enough where you know a lot of people, but still big enough where there's still plenty of people to like connect and meet with. And moving to back home, I wanted to connect more with people just in my community. And then that kind of led me to, okay, who we live in a digital world, so I feel like I need to be figuring out connections on the digital platform as well. So the reason why I chose LinkedIn is because there is a lot of sales professionals as well as just OSCs and people like that that are on there that I may never have connected with. LinkedIn is also, I feel like, a diamond in the rough. People don't know it's there or like don't
Yes.
utilize it to its full potential. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna see where this takes me. And the reason why I chose a newsletter is because it was I guess not as timely, not as timely of a task for me to like keep up with. I really wanted to make sure I chose something that I could be consistent with and that I knew was something that I would like to do. I like dwindled it down to like three, I call it the three C's I came up with, but it's content, communication, and what was the other one? Connection. So content, communication, what did I say? Content, connection, and actually the other one was consistency. All right, I'm going to say those again. Content, connection, and consistency. But content was like, okay, where do I want to take this? Does it want to be written? Do I want to do a podcast? Do I want to do something along those lines? So obviously I chose newsletter. And then connection, what kind of audience am I connecting with? I wanted to connect with professionals and I wanted to connect with people that were primarily my age or in my same role, things like that. And then consistency, I just want to make sure that I was consistent with, what I could do, making sure I was consistent with posting at a cadence that was good for me. That was a lot, and I butchered half of that, but but yeah, those are
Yeah.
those are where I like the stepping stone I stepped from.
So when I talk to a lot of people that want to build personal brands, and I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past as well, like when you were thinking about podcasting and things like that. One of the things that I feel like is consistent with everybody that I talk to is perfectionism and like feeling like you're not ready, or like I don't know all the answers to all these questions yet, or I don't have all the answers. How did you get past that and just start?
I'm definitely a perfectionist, so I definitely struggled with that. But I think for me, I just said clearly what I am wanting is connection and community. And I just need to take a step to do that. And I had to just have that imposter syndrome for a little while where I was just like, I'm going to post it. If three people read it, cool. If no one reads it, that's cool too. At least I'm putting information out there that may be helpful to someone or relatable to someone. And that's how it started. And I've just stayed consistent, and it's gradually grown into conversations with people. I'm able to talk about it when I meet people out in public, and it's just been just a good experience so far. So
What are people's perception when you talk about it out in public or like with coworkers? What's the feedback that you get?
I think my coworkers haven't really said much, so I don't know if that says anything or not, but
You
I'm
need
sure
to go follow her podcast or her
I know.
newsletter. Like, get over there. What are you doing?
I know. I know they read it because they like it and stuff. So I'm like, okay, I know they're reading it, but they just haven't said anything about it. But people in public, they're just intrigued. Like people, again, don't like really think about LinkedIn as a viable platform. So it just sparks conversations like, oh, I didn't even know LinkedIn had that, or that's cool that you're sharing information like that to other people and connecting with people about those things.
Yeah. When I started my newsletter, it was really similar. It was like people are just like, "Oh my gosh, like one, I didn't know that was on LinkedIn, and two, wow, like you're sharing so much info or that's so much to do or I don't know, they have the perception is so big and it is a lot of work. Content creation is not easy. I'm not saying that it is, but
Yeah, definitely not.
yeah, but I feel like the amount of work that goes into it with the is not necessarily proportionate to the perception of it. People think it's like a lot bigger and it really gives you like some clout as you're building a brand. And I could not agree more with you on the fact that like most people are sleeping on LinkedIn because there's a lot of opportunity there and it's not like other social platforms like air quotes it's really not a social platform. I feel like it's a professional social platform because you're able to really drill down into like your career, what you're good at, your thought leadership, and you reach so many more people than if you were going to just post that on wherever and just hope people find you. So it's a really great way to connect. And I'm always telling people, like, if you want to be known for anything, like, you just need to post about it on LinkedIn.
And it like I said, it connects you with people that aren't even near you. I've connected with people in Texas and random places that you just wouldn't think to come across that person. And then hopefully at some point I will get to meet some of these people at shows or professional conferences, things like that, and just build those relationships in person too. But I think of LinkedIn as like a professional Facebook because I post like stuff that like I'm doing as well. It's not just OSC stuff. Like I did a mahjong event I think it was like last week. I went and supported, so posting about that, and I don't know, it's fun to me. I like doing it.
I think we forget, like, people are people everywhere. Like, we're not just like one thing. Like, oh, when I log on to LinkedIn, now suddenly I'm only professional. I don't want to talk about anything like personal. Like, that's not, no, like, people are craving the same kind of connection everywhere that they go. And so LinkedIn is no different than that. Obviously, I do, as a marketer, I do tailor content differently for different platforms, but
Right.
showing personality is not something that I think you should just remove because you're on a professional platform. I think that's silly. And it's just cutting off ways that people can connect to you. So I have one more question for you. I feel like one of the things that when I have guests on the podcast and I ask my last question, I like to make it the hardest one.
Oh
And
Lord.
I feel like everybody has this like one thing that they're like, I wish that everyone just could understand this one thing and like things would be better for like my role or my company or whatever. So my question for you is, what is that one thing you wish that people understood about OSCs?
I don't know if this is OSC specific, but it could honestly be applicable anywhere. But I always remind myself that people don't know what they don't know. So that's could be leaders or a coworker, anyone, but you can't assume that anyone knows what your role entails. So like especially with OSC because it is like this newer up and coming thing and like the home building industry. I think you have to be ready to educate people and tell them about your role and advocate for yourself and say like this role is important. It shouldn't just be an optional thing. You need OSC because of XYZ and just being confident and and how you sell yourself to your home builder or to any professional.
Yeah, confidence is such a big thing. Like talking about yourself is so hard sometimes,
Yeah.
but it is so important. And like you're right. Like you can't expect people to know things that, they don't know and that you haven't told them. I love that. I think that's great advice. Now, if people listening would like to find your newsletter, tell us again the name, where it is on LinkedIn, and then you personally as well. How could they connect with you if they wanted to chat about OSC stuff?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. My name's Bri Ewchuk. And then my LinkedIn is my LinkedIn, my newsletter is the click before the key. So if you search that, then it should pop up. But you can find me there. And then you can also, if you're interested in learning more about Ivy Homes, you can find me at ivyhomes.com as well.
Absolutely. You guys do build beautiful homes, and definitely if you're looking for a home in that area, Brianna can help you. So
Yeah.
head right on over there. Definitely follow her newsletter. I think like I said before, I love everything that you're sharing. I really appreciate people creating content in the industry. I think that sharing information is such a powerful thing that we can do. And there's a lot of older ideas. I feel like it's older, but it's, oh, we shouldn't tell everybody that, or like keep all of these things private. And I really love when I find people who are sharing information freely. And it's something that I really identify with as well. So thank you for doing that. Everyone go follow Bri and let us know what you thought of this episode as well. Did you like having insights from someone on the front lines? Let me know. I know this episode was a little bit different than ones we have done before, and I absolutely love that. I'm always trying to bring in new voices and new information that maybe we don't think about every day. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you learned from this episode and if you have any additional questions as well. And I have to also say, please follow us over on YouTube, follow us on Instagram. The podcast is everywhere, and I'm really trying to grow those platforms and our following. So please go like, follow, share, do all the internet things. It really helps me out and makes me happy when I see it. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here today, and thank you for sharing this episode with your friends and with your team. It makes such a big difference to me and all of my guests. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Bri. I really enjoyed this conversation, and it was so good to see you.
Yes, it was good to see you too.
All right, everybody. We will see you in our next episode. Thanks so much. Bye.